Namaste. I'm Radha Paudel, founder and CEO of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. Thank you so much for having me over here for discussion on dignified menstruation issues, the ethical and social implication of climate change and environmental justice. I will discuss the systemic and symptomatic relationship between menstrual discrimination and climate and environmental crisis and way forward. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is a global network that is initiated by Radha Paudel Foundation in 2019 for changing the narratives around menstruation from 5 days bleeding to life cycle approach. It has been working all around the globe through more than 80 members organizations. This is a gentle reminder to each of you. If you go through all sectors and areas or levels, we cannot imagine any place without the presence of menstruators. Sometimes they are in majority, sometimes they are in minority. Whatever the case, the menstruators are there. Here, the menstruators means the people who born with the uterus and ovaries. Often we said that the menstrual discrimination has been practicing in poor countries, but that this is wrong. Regardless of the global south or global north, rich or poor country, or developed or developing country, whatever the case, the different kinds of menstrual discrimination has been practicing across the globe in different names, forms, and magnitude. You can see the examples, and if you like to have more details, you can get the book Dignified Menstruation, a practical handbook from Amazon. Likewise, these are the examples, specific examples from the specific countries. You see, in Ghana, Burundi, Egypt, Bolivia, Australia, Bangladesh, Nepal, wherever you are, there are different kinds of discriminatory menstrual practices still on. And while practicing these practices, different kinds of human rights like right to dignity, right to food, right to participation or freedom, equality have been constantly violating. This is how the menstrual discrimination is an umbrella term. It refers to the taboo, shyness, stigma, restriction, abuses, violences, deprivation from resources and services that associate with menstruation throughout the life cycle of menstruators. And it's very complex, multifaceted. It's a violation of the human right. Many of us often confine that the menstrual discrimination is a developmental issue. If you picked up the examples from earlier slides, the countries where we discuss about the menstrual discrimination, like silence or ignorance or school absenteeism, these are the different kinds of violation of the human rights. While practicing one form of menstrual discrimination, the ranges of the human rights are violating simultaneously. Likewise, if you see the lens of sexual and gender-based violence definition, which is crafted by the UN in 1993, these practices, the discriminatory menstrual practices, also form of the sexual and gender-based violence in a way or another around. This slide is very, very important. Between the age of 6 to 9 years, the menstruators knew something about both menstruators and non-menstruators knew something about menstruation. But the menstruators considered themselves as inferior, powerless, because of knowing about the discriminatory menstrual practices, whereas the non-menstruators considered themselves as a powerful, superior, pure, depending on the context. And when the menstruators have the first menstruation in their life, they feel more insecure, more inferior, more powerless, whereas the menstruators constantly feel more superior, powerful, pure, and this is how the construction of the power takes place at home when they are quite young, and that is shaped and reinforced by the menstrual discriminatory practices. And this is also the reason for construction of the patriarchy. This is very, very important. And it doesn't only affect for 5 days of the bleeding, it goes throughout the life cycle in a systemic way and symptomatic way. Systemic way is like nerves. It has a connection from womb to tomb. For example, sex-related abortion is the main, if you go through the main reason behind the sex-related abortion is menstrual discrimination. If you see the delay in seeking the health behavior for the cancer women, again the same reason. So these are the systemic impact. If anyone deprived from food or mobility, these are the symptomatic. So systemic impact and symptomatic impact cross each other throughout the life. If we go through the menstrual discrimination and the climate change through the epidemiological approach, we see the several similarities, like both concepts are natural, it has impact globally or practiced globally, and then it impact throughout the life. But in terms of the priority, the climate change getting the priority, whereas the menstrual discrimination only focus on the product, and the product are creating the burden to the climate and the environment again. If you see in a micro level, to see the connection between menstrual discrimination and climate and environmental crisis or justice. See, menstruators are asked to manage water as household chores. They have to wake up early, spend hours for fetching the water, compromise their time for the study or homework, and they might encounter with the abuses and other forms of violences. And for symptomatic impact, in many cultures, they are not allowed to touch the water sources. That is why they have to work longer hours or more struggle for having the water. So you can see the systemic and symptomatic impact because of the menstrual discrimination, and that accelerated the impact of the climate and environmental crisis. And if you go through the very micro level, very specific level, for example, if you take the malaria is happening because of the climate crisis, and delay in health seeking. If the malaria for the menstruators, there will be the delay in a health seeking behavior, or in a symptomatic form, they have the higher risks from the malaria. So if you go through the entire life cycle, entire activities, entire the health condition or other conditions, you can see the simultaneous impact of menstrual discrimination, because it construct and reinforce the power and patriarchy and the climate change. So you cannot address the climate crisis or environmental crisis in silos, or for menstrual discrimination in silos. You have to think simultaneously. And in other hand, the undignified menstrual conditions also accelerate the climate and environmental crisis. The Global South Coalition developed the 3P approach to assess whether the menstrual products are dignified or not. And in many cases, the menstrual products are burden for the planet. They have the plastic, chemical contents, and burden for the air, soil, water, and entire planet. And this is how symptomatically the menstrual practices, discriminatory menstrual practices, put extra burden to the environment and the climate justice. And these are the other examples. You can see, the more data about how does the menstrual product became a burden for the air, water, soil. And then right now, we often discuss about the sustainable development goal. And if we see from the perspective the climate action, see the climate action only in the SDG 13. But if you see from the perspective of the menstrual dignity or dignified menstrual lens, all of these goals, 17 goals, link with the dignified menstruation, or in other words, having a dialogue on dignified menstruation is a kind of condition to achieve the 17 sustainable development goals, and it has interlinked each other. So if you are working for climate and environmental justice, you need to use the dignified menstruation as a cross-cutting issue. As I have shared earlier, the menstruators are everywhere. We cannot imagine any place or sector or areas without the presence of the menstruators. And all non-menstruators also burn because of the menstrual blood. So this is the fact, this is the nature. And globally, the human rights activists, development activists, or feminists they just neglect and they don't take care of it. That is why through this presentation, I appeal to everyone, those who are working for the climate and environmental justice, please please think critically. The dignified menstruation is not just about the 5 days of the bleeding or issue related to the poverty, illiteracy, health, or religion, or ethnicity, or country, or region, or global south. Dignified menstruation is an innovative and holistic approach to dismantle all forms of menstrual discrimination. We strive to challenge the patriarchy. This is how we can achieve the climate and environmental justice more better form or better way. And then that is why I on behalf of the Global South Coalition, I humbly request each of you to put the dignified menstruation at center. It's a cross-cutting theme, no matter what kind of project you have been doing. If you are working on agriculture or climate or environment or education or health, please use the dignified menstruation as a cross-cutting issue. And then I appeal for the talk, and research. Spend the time, the money for the talk and the research at the individual level, family level, school, community, national, the parliament, and up to the UN level. If we acknowledge the urgency of dignified menstruation, or dialogue on dignified menstruation, or mainstreaming of dignified menstruation, we can achieve the climate justice and environmental justice. And if you like to get more information, these are the resources. You can have it. These are the national level production, and at the global level, we also contributed the chapters. You see the books and you can have it. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm very happy to have questions. Thank you.